Well, hello everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. Welcome back to Living with a Toy Collector. Today I'm gonna show you one of my favorite figures. I've owned this figure since 2012, and it is the NECA Balrog figure. I only saw this one time. At the time I was still married to Tom Chaos from Raging Nerdgasm, and I really wanted it. I'm still a huge fan of the Lord of the Rings. I used to have a ton of figures. I downsized all of them except for this one. Now this figure has been with me through 3 different states, Florida, North Carolina, and now Texas. I already told my family that when they bury me, this thing is coming with me. It's not gonna be sold. It's coming with me. It's one of those few pieces I'm gonna be buried with. So let me show you. Okay, so if you ever get this figure, know that it is very large. It weighs as much as a small child, and you're gonna need a very big box to transport it. So I kept this on his own box all these years, and every time I move it, I just pack it by itself. In order to keep it extra safe, I put one of my extra thick yoga mats in it, and this is how I transfer it now. This is the head. This is the top of the head, so just for a little bit of scale. Okay, and there's a couple photos of me in the past with this figure. As far as I'm tracking, I don't think this thing ever came with a box. I never seen it in a box, and it was just the figure itself. I am going to talk about the difficulties with it and maintaining this all these years, but for right now, let's just try to get it out of the box nice and safely, and I'm going to talk about some of the mods that I had to do and we had to do in the past in order to keep it nice and safe. Okay, so here it is in all its glory. Now, I will tell you, this figure has been through a lot. We moved it, I have posted, I really enjoyed this figure, and I still enjoy this figure. Why I still try to keep it as best as I can. There was a point that we were trying to kind of, how do you say, pose it, so that's why you see a proxy on the wings. But no matter what we did, unless we had to do a custom dowel on it in order to actually keep it from holding, because even the wings were too heavy for this figure. Now, unfortunately, as I mentioned, not sure if I mentioned this before, I do have the whip. The whip is on a separate box, and I'm not going to go digging for it right now. But in my last move, unfortunately, the movers accidentally broke it. And but I kept the pieces, so eventually I will proxy these back together, so I'm just keeping them safe right there. And then as for the wing, again, this comes back to what I was saying, that the figure is awesome, but it's almost as some of the pieces were too heavy and they didn't put enough support on it. So you can see right here, this right here, it kept breaking. So we had to keep putting a proxy in it in order to keep it from falling apart. Now, I kept this out in display on top of my chimney for about 2 years, and I left it there. My friends loved it. That's why you see some, like, sticky down here, because it was the only way to keep it there. Now, another thing to keep in mind about this figure, okay, it is modular in several locations. So right here, like, the head is not modular, but it does light up. I never lit mine's up, but it does light up. It has the little battery thing right there. Okay, I didn't bother to put batteries on it because I didn't want to get oxidized. The arms do move, so this moves right here, so that's point of articulation right there. It doesn't move. It also moves in the wrist, so that way if you have like the sword and in the arm, so that way you can kind of pose them however you want. But as you can see, the range of the hands are a little limited. You cannot, let me see, can you open it? No, you cannot open the hands. Okay, as for the torso right here, there's a mid point in the center. It does move in the leg by the hip, and then unfortunately it also moves down here. Now this becomes a problem because yes, you can pose these legs however you want. However, this thing has so much weight that unless you proxy the tail on it, it becomes a really big hurdle trying to keep them awake. So you'll be in the middle of the night and so you hear and it's the figure just collapsing under the weight of its own body. So if you do get this figure, you can still find it on Amazon. I've seen it as cheap as $600 or as expensive as $1,200. Make sure you have a way to stand this up, because even back when I first got it, it was a pain. It's still a pain. I love this figure, but it does come with its challenges. So let me see if I can get it to stand up. It's gonna take me a minute. Okay, so I got it put together, and just as I remember, it was a pain in the butt back then. Every time I pull them out, I'm dreading it because I know how much this sculpture just kind of collapsed in its own weight. It is a huge action figure. I don't know how else to describe it, but let me show you some of the difficulties that even to today I still have. And I've had this figure from 2012. We're now talking about 13 years. Yeah. So, and it's still difficult to stand up. Gorgeous piece. Don't take it out of the box. I'm going to be honest. Don't take it out of the box. Or if you have a nice way to sustain its weight and have a stand for it, by all means. But this is not a figure that's for the faint of heart. Let me show you. Okay, right out of the bat, as I mentioned before, unfortunately, my sword snapped. It's right there. It's all complete. But technically, when you put it together, it looks like this. And it is glorious. And I do have pictures still in the Raging Nerdgasm page when he was fully intact and didn't get moved around so much and so on and so forth. But here's a couple places where you have to keep in mind. So the head does move, but it's really hard to do so. Right here, the torso, notice how first of all, notice how I have this leaning against the wall. That is the only way I've ever been able to stand this figure on here. You have to lean it against something heavy, otherwise it falls. And even then, if you don't glue down the feet, what will happen is at some point in the middle of the night, something shifts and the whole thing collapses and just falls and it just breaks. So keep that in mind. Now, right here, the tail, even though, I had to get some dowels because the original pegs just was not doing it. So I just simply went ahead, I used a dowel in here. You can see it right there. There's a little wooden dowel. And we even had a proxy in there, would not hold. But this is technically modular. It's just, it never worked. No matter what we did, we just couldn't get it to stick. Even when we got it the first time, it just wouldn't stick. It does also have a second point of articulation back here. So you have technically 2 points of articulation here and here. So again, awesome figure. Just don't take it out of the box. It's like a McFarlane figure. You know, just kind of fall apart the second you pull it out. But it does have 2 points of articulation right here. And again, you have the legs. These rotate at this point here, and it also rotates in the hip. It does not rotate on the knees. Thank goodness, because that would have been just way too much. Okay, so on the other side, okay. On the other side, something similar. Again, we had to put I don't want to pull it out, but you can see the wooden dowel in there. This is why, someone asked me, will you sell it? It's like, no, because it's kind of like my favorite toy. I've had this forever. It's got some wear and tear because of how heavy this figure is and how long I've had this. And again, this thing is my figure. This is my toy. I like this toy. It's awesome. And even though it does have its complexities, I hope someday that I'll be able to fully mount him properly. But even friends that I know that do this, they're like, yeah, that figure is kind of a pain in the butt to set up. So for most part, you really just have to pick your pose and fully approximate, and that's it. That is the end. You won't be able to remove it, take it apart, or do anything, because otherwise it's just gonna keep falling down on its own weight. And it's mostly from the wings here. The wings are incredibly heavy, and it just doesn't have the ability to stand on its 2 legs. All right. So, but it's still really cool. Look at all the detail in there. You don't see stuff like this as much anymore, unfortunately. Again, I totally love this figure. Just wish I had a... God, I keep finding my whip. It's in one of the boxes with one of the other toys. But I just keep forgetting to put them together. But it's absolutely an incredible figure. Totally love this figure. And I will show you the back. Unfortunately, a turnaround is out of the question because of how flimsy this figure is. But I still love it. I think it's a cool figure. So, yep. Okay, so if you guys are bored and want to see a full turnaround, back when I used to run Raging Nerdgasm, and I still got these photos because I'm the one that took these photos, by the way. You can still see the Balrog all the way around. I took very detailed photos of it. We went to a public park, and we took photos of it, and it was glorious. So I'll make sure to provide the link to this on there so you guys can see the really beautiful pictures of this figure. And you can see this was a kid's playground, and I tell you, this thing is as big as a small child. I am not kidding. This thing is as big as a small child. Now, I did found on eBay, let me see right here. Okay, so I was right. So this thing never really quite came into a box. Here's a posting for one for $750. Here's one for $600. And here's some person asking 1,200 euros for it. So we don't really need that one. So this thing, again, did not have a really nice display box. It just came in a box that said Balrog. And what's really cool about this is that this cat still has the instructions. There's the whip. Okay, I do have the whip. It's just somewhere else. And you can see right here, there's those little pegs I was telling you about in the wings. So when we put ours together, these things snapped. So make sure that if you are going to try to put it together, be ready to have something else to put in its place to keep it in order, because ours did not last very long when we got these. You can see the inside and the outside. There's the flame. I think I turned on the flame one time, if I may be frank. And after that, never again. But there is the promotional figure of it right there from back in the day. But yeah, this is, I gotta tell you, even though it has its hurdles, this is a really cool figure. And as I said, you know, this is one of those things that I'm probably gonna get buried with it. And by the way, that is a normal size closet door. There is a shredder right next to it. That tells you how big that figure is. So if you're going to get that figure, make sure you have some space for that figure, okay? So that way you have a point of reference. Now, I'm gonna be honest when I tell you, I don't remember all the history behind this figure, but there is a chap right here. I found a Captain Toy, and he has a really good review on this figure itself. And even you can see that when he got it, he was also holding it up. So I'm assuming he was having a hard time with this figure as well. But he has a really good blog talking about this figure, when it came out, what happened, all the history behind it. So I'll make sure to put his link in the description, so that way you guys can check it out if you're really interested in this figure. But as for me, like I said, for me it's cool. I like the figure. I love Lord of the Rings. It glows. It's huge, and like I said, I'm gonna get buried with it. So that's all that matters to me. But anyway, guys, I hope you like this type of content. Please like and subscribe. And like I said, I will continue sharing to my personal collection. I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm going to tell you everything about this figure, because I'm not. I'm not. I don't remember everything about the figures. I just still really, really think they're cool, and I absolutely enjoy them. But anyway, guys, I'll talk to you next time, and y'all take care. Peace.